Welcome back, all you kings, queens, and in-betweens, to the second ever episode of the This Week in Weeb podcast. And just like last time, I am joined by my good friend, Miguel.
Good afternoon. It is currently Saturday afternoon, and we are recording this to try to get in the most recent Weeb news updates and just a nice conversation between friends to the wonderful people out there as soon as possible.
Yes, I don't want everybody to expect that you're going to get all of the up-to-date news, all the up-to-date episodes and things like that from this, but we're going to do our very best to keep it as topical as possible.
This is definitely going to be a podcast for people who just want to hear people chat, talk, and get to know each other a bit better, as well as like, hey, you know what, sprinkle some Weeb and stuff in, sprinkle some anime stuff in, and hopefully get a nice little chuckle at the very least.
And if you want to hear us talk about comic books and X-Men and Magneto and the Justice League and all that stuff for an hour, then definitely check out our last episode, because that's what it was predominantly about. But I thought it was a great conversation and I enjoyed it.
We definitely went, we redefined derailed, but it was a very fun, like I said, it was a fun conversation, kind of just testing the waters, getting myself used to this whole new world of not just recorded conversation, but podcasting and, jumping back into anime.
Yeah, and you want us to have fun making this content, because that's how the content keeps getting made, is if we're having fun while we're doing it.
There's no reason to do it if you're not having fun. I mean, obviously you always hear about people in social media and influencers getting burnt out, and that's because it very much becomes their full-time job, their focus, and that's absolutely fine. But if you're not at least having fun, if you're not enjoying yourself, then why do it?
That's actually a good segue to a topic that, just popped into my head while you were speaking is, are you familiar with all of the YouTubers that are kind of retiring now?
The main one that I'm familiar with is going to be MatPat, because obviously the game theory of video games is one of my stronger suits. Definitely not a huge gamer, because I'm not a huge in anything, but I have enough gaming experience where I can definitely say that I am a gamer. So to hear his big retirement was surprising. I feel like he's been a part of my personal YouTube experience for a very long time. I also kind of feel like it's maybe time. I feel like maybe it is like approaching that time. I was like, I think you've done a lot. You've put in your time. It's understandable to kind of just bow out.
He's also managed to dodge controversy for a long time. He's had little things pop up here and there where people have talked about like the lack of effort on some of his theories and the FNAF thing being a dominant thing, and then the Sans' Nest thing that blew up for a while. But in terms of personal controversy that a lot of YouTubers get into, and I won't even touch on what the typical thing that YouTubers get into is, he's managed to dodge that. He's kind of like a Markiplier. Like Markiplier hasn't run into any real personal controversy either. So it's like bow out before you get canceled, honestly, nowadays.
Yes, that's definitely going to be the Dark Knight thing of if you see yourself long enough, something become the villain.
Either you die as the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Thank you very much. Exactly. So I think he hasn't gotten into a lot of controversy himself personally, but he definitely started dipping himself into it with some of his most recent videos and things going around, especially everything around FNAF and Scott and being
in the movie and everything.
In the movie, I think he's Scott, the guy who created the FNAF. He
his donations,
all that stuff. So I think he was saying like, you know what, this may not be as worth it as it used to be. I will say one thing and this is just my own personal take. I think part of the way that he's able to avoid a lot of that controversy is by, straddling the fence on a lot of issues and kind of saying, I don't necessarily feel one way nor the other. Whatever you want to do is what you want to do. And that's how you kind of maintain that audience, which I completely understand. And I'm sure you and I will be doing some of that during these recordings. But I'm also a believer that if you don't stand for something, then you will kind of fall for anything. So you do have to take a stand at some point on some issues.
What's the line from Hamilton? If you stand for nothing, what do you fall for?
Like,
it
was
the
I can hear him rapping in my head. What do you stand for? Something about what do you stand for? Or let's do some fact check. Hold on, we're gonna check into our fact checking department here, guys. You got that?
If you stand for nothing, Burr, what'll you fall for?
There you go.
Yes,
and that's what it is.
7 minutes into Lin-Manuel Miranda's masterpiece, Hamilton.
That's what I mean. I completely understand to kind of keep things copacetic with such a large audience and so much of that audience being very split amongst certain issues and topics, that's completely understandable. But I think people listen because they want to know your take. It's hard to kind of maintain that take or that opinion without upsetting someone. And that's why so many YouTubers always throw in the, but that's just my opinion. Well, it is your opinion. And I can either agree with it, disagree with it. And if I disagree with it strong enough, I'll just stop watching. But people do take it very personally, very to heart and say, this person now hates me because of their opinion.
That's just an opinion. A game opinion.
Wishing MatPat all the best, man. Thank you for all those theories and all the fun stuff. And I've never played Five Nights at Freddy. I've never actually gotten into any of the games or anything else. I only appreciate the lore, and so from his videos, I have some Five Nights at Freddy merch because of that. So
his videos are really most of my exposure as well. My son was really into it for a while. He played a few of the games. I played a little bit of 2 and a little bit of 4, but never for any extended period of time. I played one of them on mobile, and that's a different experience. But I am also never been the biggest horror fan game. Like, I'm not a big person on sitting in a dark room with headphones on playing a horror game. That's not me. But I'm also the kind of person who, when I was reading The Shining, I had to get up and turn all the lights on in the room. So
I do love horror movies. I definitely like the horror genre. Yeah. Horror games, I get my enjoyment from it. It's nothing I'm against. It's nothing that I'm particularly a fan of. I don't think I ever got the shookethness of that some people get. So it's never really bugged me so much. But I think also, it's just atmosphere. I think at its core, no matter what the media is, if you make it quiet and then yell, you're going to get scared. So I think that'll be anything, any kind of like media or anything else. And the Five Nights at Freddy people and everything after that found that little niche and said, we can definitely scare the bejesus out of people and make tons of money doing this. And they did it very well.
Yeah, we can appeal to 11-year-olds and scare them and make it blow up into an internet sensation. But you got to give them credit for what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. They found their little moment. They saw their that little like niche they could fill. They filled it. And between the 11-year-olds who liked it and then the streamers who enjoy playing those games, as well as people who view them and watch them and enjoy their reactions, they also found their niche too.
Yeah, and the lore. The lore is really cool. And honestly, the lore is only, I think, cool because of people like MatPat.
Yes.
Because there was a lot of stuff that Scott didn't plan. And there's a lot of stuff that people were theorizing on and kind of throwing out there that I think Scott worked into the games later on, where he's like, oh, this stuff appeals to them. These are connections that I didn't think about, but it adds to it. Because there's contradictions, and you kind of have to explain away a lot of the contradictions. And most of them probably stem from, he didn't plan this all out.
No, I think
when he released the first game where you're just getting scared by animatronics.
I think there's definitely happy accidents that happen to kind of add to the lore. And as the community grew, he definitely saw that, let's run with that. But to his credit, I will say there are definitely things I think that he had to have thought of or included to kind of be there. Like, I know one of them was one of his first videos. And again, this kind of things that just kind of pulled me into the lore without ever playing the game was like, oh, and if you go to the source code of the website, you'll see this. And then this means like, oh,
the ARG crap. Stuff. Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap. Who would have thought of that to just say, let me check the source code of the website. And sure enough, it's there and you can follow it through and see what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole thing with like analog horror now has been really a thriving genre, and it plays a lot into that thing where you're looking at the shading of videos, you're turning up the brightness, you're viewing it under a spectrogram, you're going to websites, you're doing Morse code backwards.
Double check it, everything's a QR code. Let me scan this, let me scan that. Yeah.
Like, I would like to see the inside, or maybe I wouldn't like to see the inside of somebody's mind when they're trying to plan these things out. That must be one hell of a Always Sunny corkboard going on.
Those are the people who would make amazing escape rooms. Those are the people who say, you know what, if you look at this certain thing at this way. I mean, even when they were talking about Silent Hills with the new Kojima one and everything else in the PT demo, to kind of figure out that like secret ending and the full ending, people come up with a craziness like, well, all you have to do is at this time and wait for this many rings and turn this way, and just started kind of becoming a meme on its own, building on itself. It's like, if you take the controller and you turn it facing southways and you lick the D-pad and whisper Kojima into it, then you'll open up the door, which brings you to the baby. And for times I would think maybe that's true. Maybe that's how you do it, because people are finding craziness in there, and it was amazing.
That's you saw the Ready Player One movie, right?
Yes.
One of the things that always always bothers me to this day about that movie, and like there's a lot of differences between the movie and the book, a ton of differences between the movie and the book. But one of the funniest things in there is, spoilers for this movie, the relatively beginning of the movie. But one of the puzzles is, we got to beat this race. And the only way to beat the race is to drive backwards towards the wall. And you're telling me that a community of dedicated full-time job gamers,
corporations,
yes, never tried that? You're talking about the same group of people that when a Call of Duty Zombies Easter egg comes out that requires you to perform 25 steps backwards in a different room than your console while you're playing, they figure all these things out in 24 hours. Nobody in all of this time figured that out.
That one I think was a very, very big reach. I think it could have been a bit more than that, but at the same time, kind of like what we discussed with MatPat, I think it has to hit a certain way where it's open enough to a wider audience so everyone kind of feel like, oh wow, that's creative, and not so most gamers like that's the first thing I would have done. Yeah, it's like you get a new game with a character. I think one of the first things people do like, do I take fall damage? And you jump off of some cliffs, like just to find out in some movie, like, well, if you would have fallen off this cliff, then you're like, everybody would have done it the first day. That was something you do off the bat.
Somebody would have been bored and they would have gotten in there with a group of their friends and just been playing bumper cars behind the starting line. You would have had all of these people that were doing absolutely nothing. Oh, can I shoot my car off into the stands and kill NPCs?
There would have been penises made in tire marks all over the stage.
All over the place. Yes. Burned into the very source code. I don't know. We kind of derailed there. But in turning back to YouTuber Burnout.
Yes.
And because he's not the first and he's not going to be the last. And this seems like a growing trend where there's a lot of people that are retiring from content creation. What do you think on that? What do you think about the concept of taking hobbies and things that you're passionate about and trying to monetize them into companies and the burnout that comes along with that?
I think that's a great topic to discuss, especially for what we're doing here. It's hard. I mean, again, this is people are more willing to come at me. I don't mind, because again, it's one of those things where, as I think a caveat I'll mention now for all future episodes, I am not the end all be all of any subject whatsoever. I'm going to get tons of things wrong and incorrect. If you want to correct me, by all means, please let me know. Correct me. I'm always welcome to be taught and grow and learn. So with that, I think anything that I speak on, and again, I don't want to speak for you, Jeremy, but anything I speak on comes from just my own experience and my own points of views, and may not be yours, may not be anyone else's, but this is what I have experience with in my own experience. It's hard because I think it's always kind of ingrained in people, especially American people, kind of we talked about last week, to work hard. So the ideal is to have a job or work hard that you're passionate about, that you love. You know, everyone says, hey, I love this one thing. I wish I could get paid for it. So once you had this huge uptick in like 2000s and stuff of people doing things that they allegedly love and getting paid for it, everyone wants to do it. Everyone wants to be a TikTok star. Everyone wants to be a Instagram star.
There's colleges that do it now.
Exactly.
I'm taking currently a digital storytelling, digital media, and social media as courses.
But what I think the media as a whole often fails to relate to people is that it takes work. Like, it's not just like, well, my one friend laughed at my joke, so I'm sure I can make millions on Instagram right now. No. Like,
some people might. And those are the people that I look at and go, oh, I hate you.
It's still, I think like it still takes effort. I was looking at some of the rules and the best ways to be successful and grow your following on Instagram. And it's not just about having that one perfect post. You could definitely get lucky, but to keep it going, to grow it, you have to have the right interactions at the right times when there's most traffic for your area, for your, location on what your thing is, tagging the right people, but not putting too many tags, putting the right hashtags, but not overwhelming the thing,
there's
reaching
so
out.
Much market research that happens. It's the stuff that you used to go to college for and work for a big marketing company for, and individuals are learning it now on their own and learning it through things like the internet and YouTube and stuff like that, and teaching themselves all these marketing and advertising skills.
This is why the whole idea, exactly 20 years ago, the idea, or maybe more than that, the idea of a social media manager was not a thing. When you would tell people would laugh, like, that's not a real job. Now,
it was public relations was the closest.
Exactly. But now, not only is it a real job, it's a necessity for most companies that kind of have somebody who's going to manage your media 24/7 and have all of your, social media accounts, review them, the right interactions, the right algorithms, the right postings, make sure it's appealing to the right people, your demographic, on and on and on. I read at one point, if you want to do things on Instagram, it's not just a matter of posting. It's you have to post, and within those first 10 to 20 minutes, you have to like this many people, and then you have to click on their personal likes, and then do these kind of things. So it all kind of links together. And you're talking about one post that ends up taking about an hour's worth of effort. And that's for one post. And then they tell you should post at least 3 times a day. So now you're talking about 3 hours at the minimum that you're dedicating to something that's supposed to be a hobby, supposed to be fun. It's promoted in things as like, hey, you're on a quirky trip with your friends, post to Instagram, but not to make a job out of it. You have to hit so many levels and tiers of things. It's overwhelming.
Speaking as someone who has been doing YouTube for almost 6 years now and has done all of those things where they go on trips and make them into content and things like that, I was just looking at, and I'm not comparing one for one at all, please don't get that twisted, but Game Theorists has 668 videos on. My main channel, King's Entertainment Reviews, that's at King's Entertainment Reviews on YouTube, always be plugging, and I have 1,000 videos on over 6 years. And my new channel, this one that we're currently on, This Week in Weeb, which is growing at a much better rate in the beginning than my old one did, it has 82 videos on it. Live, I think, has in the 20s. And that is not the level of production that a game theory video has, obviously, but it's just me in the lane doing this stuff. All the editing and things like that, all of the recording, all that stuff, while working full-time jobs, while going to school, while being a parent, while doing all of these things with not a lot of money that can do to offset that kind of stuff. And we take the vacations and sit there and record the entire thing. We have a video on the main channel, which we may have taken down because we're moving it over to live, but where we went to a battleship in Massachusetts. I recorded through the entire thing. We went through this entire battleship for a few hours. I was recording through the entire thing. We were talking to the camera. We were commenting on things and making that into content, knowing that we were going to turn it into a video. And some of these videos that we do that we spend hours on, just the recording process, maybe get 50 views sometimes. And it is taxing. It's very taxing to be on for that long.
That's what I think. I think if nothing else speaks to you and your passion for this. I mean, that shows that you are, to quote a great poet of our generation, Mr. Curtis Jackson, you're going to, do it or die trying. You got to succeed or die trying, because of the fact that you have to have this kind of passion. You have to have this kind of focus. I know I don't. For something that I was going to kind of create for myself at this point in my life, I don't. If I was going to go on a trip somewhere, I want to kind of be in the moment, not thinking about of how can I apply this. And when you do have that kind of different mentality, then I know I'm not the person to be successful. You are going to be successful, in my opinion, not just because I'm on here with you, but I do feel that you are going to be successful because you have that drive for it. And I think it's that kind of drive that people overlook or don't realize. Like you said, it's you doing the recordings, you doing the editings, it's you doing the promotion.
And Elaine, I don't want to take that away.
And Elaine, of course, obviously, shout out to Elaine. But in other people, it's not just that. It's other people. They have literally a marketing team. They have an editing team. They have people script writers, they have people who set up things. They have people who do the sponsorships. And this trip is sponsored by so-and-so. So they're all set. They're just the personality of it. May even, originate with their ideas. But for many of these people online, they're the face of a much greater machine.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they didn't start like that. I don't want to say that
no,
they started
of course.
Like that. Some of them did, but most of them don't.
When they get that successful, it's hard to continue to maintain that success without a team. Game Theorist was MatPat recording in his closet, as he's mentioned many times before, editing his things, everything else, and that's it. And now he literally has a team of people that he's handing this off to.
It's a company. It's
they're
owned by 2 companies now,
self-sustaining people as a company. It's its own thing. It's grown beyond him, which is why
Philip DeFranco is a good example too. He started on, I think it was called the Community Channel, whatever his original channel name was. It was just him in a very orange room talking to the camera, and I was watching it back then and see it grow into a legitimate company at this point, where he's got all these different branches of this company, news arms, the web, all that kind of stuff. Or Red and Link. Red and Link started making parody commercials and music videos by themselves forever ago, and now they're a huge company. They're not small anymore. Mythical is a ginormous company that owns multiple sub companies underneath it, and that's from hard work. And looking at it from the perspective of someone who tried doing something that they were passionate about and turning it into a monetization standpoint, and that was board games, I know that I went through points where I felt the burnout, where it was, hey, I want to sit down and play a board game and not record us playing.
Yeah.
But if I sit down and play a board game and don't record us playing it, that means we're going to have to play it again and record us playing
it's
it.
not going to be the same passion again.
Yeah. And that also means that if we want to do it the first time, then we're not going to be experts at it. Then we might mess up, and then we might have to record it again, and then you run into the same problem.
Yeah.
And maybe I want to play this game that we've had for 2 years that I really enjoy, but we just got something from Kickstarter, so we should probably play that and review that and learn how to play that. And it definitely gets to a point where you're sitting there going, I just want to have fun with the thing that I want to have fun with. And I'm sure that video games and films and stuff were the same thing for MatPat for a while, or anybody else who does these kind of passion things. Was like, I just want to play a video game and not have to monetize it. What was it? Ninja, who had the whole thing where he was like, I don't want to play Fortnite anymore. I just want to play other games. But y'all don't watch anything if I'm not playing Fortnite.
I mean, so I'm very big, and I'm sure we're gonna and I say this a lot, but we're gonna dive into this more another time. But hopefully people will come back and join us for those other times. But I'm a very big toy collector. That's one of my big things. It's toy collecting, action figures, collectibles, all that stuff. When I was on more so the Instagram side of toy collecting, you'll know what toy had just come out or what toy was quote unquote hot in the street, because all the big toy collectors, all the big influencers of toy collecting are all posting about the same thing. And when I thought, well, maybe I could try and get into that, not only is it expensive because then they also end up selling it, or they've gotten it for free from the company, which I wouldn't get. But you may not be interested in that. So if something, let's say, comes out for Spider-Man, and I don't really care for Spider-Man at that time, to maintain that kind of keep up with the Joneses, I just have to go out, find that figure, get that figure, take the pictures, post about it, and then just kind of be over it. Whereas if I want to take pictures of a Gargoyles figure, well, Gargoyles isn't really popular right now, so I have to, and that I think is also detrimental to your own enjoyment.
Let me get a new show though, so it's relevant now.
Well, it's relevant again.
Go take those pictures of that gargoyle figure.
30 years, Gargoyles anniversary, man. 30 years, Jesus, man, Joseph, that's a long time.
But yeah, it's the same thing where I have gotten some free stuff in the past where people have sent me copies of games. Typically, they're smaller indie creators.
Yeah.
I don't have the kind of connections except for maybe Pandasaurus, who I've worked for several times, which I've disclosed in my videos.
Shout out to Pandasaurus.
Yeah, Pandasaurus is great, and I have a direct line to their marketing person, which is kind of cool. I really like them as a company. But I have had smaller creators send me products, and I've been able to review them. I've been able to play them. Next week, I believe, as of time of recording next week, I think we're going to be releasing a couple of videos of somebody in the UK who sent us some card games that we reviewed, and they'll be coming up soon because they're coming out soon. We want to time it correctly. But for the most part, we're paying out of pocket for all those board games, and board games are expensive.
Oh, yeah.
We have at least, just in the other room, like one room over, we have probably about 1,000 board games.
Yeah, I seen your wall.
And that's not, we have other board games spread around 2 other family households. Oof. And that costs a lot of money.
You have board games the way I have Pops. It's just a wall to wall kind of thing, man.
And you can't ever really stop, because we could go back and review old board games, but nobody cares.
Exactly. Yeah. I was going through, I have a storage unit full of toys. I was going through my storage unit and I found some old toys. I was like, oh, I remember when I bought this, and it's a great toy or whatever it is, fine. And I would love to kind of take pictures of it and kind of forward. But again, if I do it, it is going to be a passion project. It's going to be because I enjoy it, not because I expect to kind of gain enough more followers. And because, like I said, nobody cares. Nobody cares about a toy that came out 10, 15 years ago. You know what? I hope they will. And hopefully if everything goes well, I'll share more about that side of my own personal journey. But you know, it really is like, I think I look up to people, and again, not to blow too much smoke up you or anything, but I look up to people who kind of take something that they love and enjoy and want to make it into their job, because as much as you may have a passion for it, it's a huge passion that you have to have that's kind of just refuel yourself over and over again, because burnout is a very serious thing and it happens, you know, unexpectedly. You think I'm great one day and then one day you're not. MatPat, I think he said it. He was already thinking about this since like March of last year or wherever, fine. But he kept going because he wants to keep going. At some point he's like, you know what? I've done the videos I wanted to do. I've reached out, and now he's at a point where he can step away comfortably. I'm sure he's going to get tons of residuals and I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, he still owns like half the company.
Exactly. So he's going to be fine. Yeah. He's going to be fine. And I'm sure he's going to be happy to wake up and not have to check Reddit and Instagram and everything about what's coming out about FNAF. Now he's like, I'm letting someone else do that now. I'm good.
Yeah. And I think that there's a point where you can look at yourself and be like, I just want to make this a hobby again. Yeah. And once you've made it to the degree that somebody like MatPat has, that's, I think, an easier decision to make, because you've built a machine that runs itself for the most part, or other people are running it, but you don't have to be the sole person that's running it. Somebody else can kind of take over and you can give yourself that time back. I think for smaller YouTubers, it's a harder decision to make, because what is the cost benefit analysis of, do I want to continue pushing forward on the things that I'm doing, even though I'm not making the traction that I think I should be making, or things like that? And what is my work-life balance? You do that with your regular job. Like, I want to make sure that I mean, maybe you don't, because you work all the time.
I know.
But the big question that you come up with is my work-life balance. Am I working too much? Am I sacrificing my life? Things like that. And, you know, I've taken a outlook now that maybe I don't have to record absolutely everything. I will go to Busch Gardens now. We go every year. We do the Halloween, no, not Halloween Horror Nights. That's Universal. But the whatever the Busch Gardens one is called, I think should know, considering I've recorded it for the last
the spooky bushes.
Yeah, the spooky bushes. And I will record the walkthrough. I'll walk through and I'll have my thing out, and sometimes they give me issues, but sometimes they don't. And I'll walk through and I'll record it, and I'll post the walkthroughs on there. I'll put the thing down and record the shows and stuff like that, even if they're going to copyright claim all the music that's played. And I'll do that, but I'm not going to walk around the thing and record everything I'm doing anymore. Sometimes I'll do it for a little while if I want to talk about a ride that I just went on or something like that, but I want to enjoy myself sometimes.
Exactly, yeah.
And I used to do it from start to finish. I walked in the park and I'm recording everything. When I went to Disney last time, I have hundreds upon hundreds of shorts from Disney that I was just recording little things here and there. And it was a point where we were walking. I would take a step off. My mom and my son would continue walking, and I'd be like, I'm making a short. I'm talking about this thing. Look at this thing. Oh, look at these people doing this thing. And it was like, it takes away from the trip.
Yeah.
You really make it a business trip at that point.
By no means do I mean any of this as a slight to people who do that kind of stuff. Right? Because again, if it's your passion, what you want to do, by all means, you do you. As long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody, live your best life. I know for myself, I don't have that mentality to look at something I enjoy and think, you know what, that's content. Like I just want to look at it and say, this is what I enjoy. I went to Disney World for the first time many years ago. Oh man, like wow, almost 9 years ago. And that was one of the greatest experiences of my entire life. And because I was in the moment, we weren't taking a ton of pictures. We weren't like, let's document it. Like, no, let's just enjoy it. And it was incredible. It's very expensive, but it was incredible because we were able to kind of just like stay in the moment. And it's one of those things like you hear, you know, a lot of older people like myself say you really stay in the moment. Like you go to a concert. I went to a concert a while back recently, not 2 weeks ago, but I think it was in November, October. I'll double check. But I'm listening to the music, watching the artist, and everyone there who's much younger than I am, we're just watching it on their phones. I'm like, the guy's right in front of you. Like, I know you want to capture it. By all means, capture it, have the moment for yourself, but enjoy this because this person's not going to be back here probably for a while. For people who are wondering, it was a Youngblood concert. But, you know, to kind of see people just not focus on what's there, like just take that moment, enjoy where you are amongst peers, people who share this passion with you, who enjoy the artist with you. Everybody have that feeling, that kind of like live music feeling, but everyone's too busy on their phones or not even facing the stage, taking pictures of themselves with the stage behind.
Selfieing.
Exactly. Like, and it's such like an older person thing to say, but it is true. Like there are certain things I think are worth being in the moment for. And don't worry about content. Don't worry about being, you know, Insta famous. Just worry about enjoying what you have because that might not happen again.
Yeah, I found myself doing that a lot when I was at Disney or when I'm at a lot of other events where it's like I'm looking through the phone at the thing and it's like I could just watch this from home. and I catch myself now. I used to not, but I now catch myself where it's like, hey, I'm holding like a gimbal and I can just look at the things and just hold the phone. The phone's gonna see the things.
You'll see it when you see it.
I don't have to look through the phone and walk through, and because then I'm robbing myself of the experience.
Exactly.
I find myself watching like the Lion King show and Animal Kingdom in Disney, and I'm watching it through my phone right in front of my face. I'm like, I don't have to do that. I could do this at home and watch it through my phone. It's the same thing.
It's great to capture those moments, and I'm sure people will be very happy that they did because sometimes there are those unforgettable moments that you won't ever have again. But it's wonderful just to kind of be in it. And as someone who has a horrible memory, who I usually do capture everything, so I will probably forget and can remember it later. I still feel that it's worth it for that kind of moment in time. I hugged Winnie the Pooh in Disney World, man. And if it wasn't for like some person taking a picture in the background, I probably wouldn't have anything of that. But that was such a fun, sweet moment. It was like, it's Winnie the Pooh. Come on. It's perfect.
Yeah, I went to I don't remember what the name of the restaurant is, but it's like the restaurant that's right to the left when you come out of Main Street. I'm talking about Main Street USA in Disney World. There's a restaurant that's right there that's a buffet restaurant, and they do a character buffet. I don't know if it was a lunch or whatever it was, but it's mostly Winnie the Pooh characters. And I have some great pictures with my mom and stuff. And me and my mom mom, while waiting to get into this restaurant, literally got into an argument right outside this restaurant. We were waiting. You know, Disney's stressful. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff there. You're spending a lot of money. You feel like you need to be having fun at all times. And we got into an argument, but then we went into this place and the characters were there and we got hugs. And it was like all of that negativity just melted away and all that kind of stuff, and seeing them walk around and everything. Yeah. And that's just those moments that you just want to be in. Yeah, I have pictures. Obviously, I took pictures. They pose for pictures. They expect you to take pictures, but I wasn't recording the entire thing or doing all that kind of stuff. I was more in the moment, being there with my son, being there with my mom, and kind of experiencing that.
Which I think is one of those things that I do wish that a lot of social media influencers, YouTubers, especially ones who are retiring, would hopefully share that kind of knowledge with people to say, you know what, if your hopes and your dreams are not to be an Instagram person, a YouTube person, a TikTok person, by all means, go ahead, do what you want to put out there, create your content, that's fine, but don't stop to enjoy the moments. Don't stop to kind of enjoy this life that you have and do what you have to do, because if it's all just for content, then none of it is for you. None of it becomes like personal. Now it's just like, well, this experience I had, how can I make money off it? You're monetizing everything. And I think what people overlook is when you monetize everything, that means someone else kind of be in charge of it. So should that other entity, whether that platform is YouTube, TikTok, whatever, go away or change their rules and say you can't do it anymore, then everything is shot. You have nothing left.
YouTube is a cruel mistress.
It absolutely is. And again, talking for the toy community, a few years back, they had the Kappa, I think it was COPPA.
Yeah, the whole kids thing.
Exactly. All the toy YouTube people lost their minds. Oh my God. People were, and I felt for them. Like, you know, this is my livelihood or everything. I was like, yes, but you have to try and see, like, were you putting your all into this just for like the thing, or did it because you loved it? And that's why I think it's important, as a very uninformed person, I can say that I think it's important to always maintain that balance of like, this is my passion, but I'm going to have other things. I can't put all my eggs in this basket, like anything, because you never know if it's going to stop. God forbid tomorrow YouTube or whatever changes their algorithms or rules and say, you know what, no more anime content. If this was the only thing, I'm like, oh fuck, that sucks. But you want to try and say, okay, well, you know, where else can I go then? Where else can I put this? And it's still like a passion, so you're going to figure it out. If it's not a passion of yours and you're just doing it for the pay of it, then of course it's going to be even a harder hit, because now it's like, I didn't even like doing this. I was just doing it for the money of it, and now it's done.
Yeah.
So
I went on a trip with some of my friends from my previous job a couple of years ago. Was it last year or the year before? I don't even remember now. It was during the COVID time, so the lost era. But I went on that trip, and yeah, I did some recording and I posted some content out of it. But in terms of what I normally post on a trip, it was minuscule. I think I just recorded the Van Gogh museum or Van Gogh exhibit that we went to, and some experiences from that. And then I posted that on the channel. And the rest of the time, I didn't record content. I just, got up. We were staying in a place, I think it was called the Hamilton Hotel. Okay. We were staying in a place that had bunk beds. Mm-hmm. So we had a room that had 4 bunk beds, and it was like a little hallway, 4 bunk beds. You got a communal shower, bathroom, all that kind of stuff. And I just lived in the moment for that whole trip and didn't make it a content trip. And I remember back onto it so fondly because I was in the moment every step of the way there. Yeah. And when I think back on it, I'm like, I had so much more fun on that trip than I typically have on any other trip, because I wasn't sitting there trying to make it into something. Yeah. I was just going to enjoy being around my friends, doing weird things in a strange city, because we were in Boston.
And I have to worry about how it's going to come out when I post it. How is it going to be? Did I get the right angles, the right lighting? Did I say the right things?
Am I wearing the right stuff? Do I look perfectly fine to the degree that I can?
At the end of the day, I could be 1,000 times over wrong about all of this. So forget me. What do I know? I'm just one person. But I think it like I said, it is important to take a moment to kind of step back and kind of enjoy things. Now, if you choose to be the kind of person that says, no, I'm on my grind, I'm not going to make it unless I make everything content, more power to you. I wish you all the best. And I really wish nothing but success to those kind of people, because they have a drive that I can't even begin to fathom. No matter how much I may have a passion for something, to be on it 24/7, to not be able to enjoy trips or conventions, because like, well, no, how can I make this content? Like, I always imagine the lives of those people, like for certain YouTubers I even watch on YouTube, when they go to certain restaurants or certain trips and they invite friends, do their friends have to say, is this going to be content? Because if it is, I don't want to go. That would suck. I would hate to want to question you if I'm going to hang out with you, like, hey, is this going to be content? Because if it is, I don't want to do it. Like, I want to think that if you're going to invite me to something, we're going to go as friends, just enjoy ourselves. And if you tell me yes, it is, then I have the choice, but it's not something that I have to assume every single time. Like, but when someone's livelihood is that, then yeah, you have to wonder every time, are they inviting me because they want to hang out and have fun? or are they inviting because they need more people for this specific episode?
They want somebody to bounce off of or whatever like that. And my best example is watching the travel YouTubers that my mom watches, and a lot of their stuff gets paid for, a lot of the bigger ones, and they get to go on these trips and to these amazing places, and they record it and all this kind of stuff. And some of them, all of the friends that they ever have in any of the videos are just other content creators.
Yes.
And it's like, is that just because nobody wants to hang out with you because you're always doing content?
It cracks me up. And again, I applaud them for this kind of like dedication and focus, but it's very funny that when a group of them do hang out a certain place, especially like these like location or vacation or traveling people.
We go to Disney a lot. She watches a lot of Disney ones.
And every person in their group is filming themselves talking about it. I'm like,
and you see
no one's paying attention to anything. No one's really, this isn't a group. This is 5 people from 5 different channels all taking this opportunity to make content, which is, again, if that makes them happy, go for it. Absolutely. But I feel like if I'm in a group of 5 people who I consider friends, I'm like, hey guys, let's talk. Let's hang out. I mean, and I think that's kind of, again, bringing it all full circle, the basis of even this podcast. We could definitely have a podcast that's like very well structured, very well printed out, thought about like we're going to hit these specific points, or we can just talk and hope people will enjoy what we're saying and we can go from there. And I think so far this kind of format for us works out because we can go on these long tangents and get derailed and come back to it or anything else. But if it was all like, well, no, we have to speak about these specific things and only these things because they're the only things hot in the street and nothing else, I don't know if I would be as motivated to join because like, well, I don't want to just talk about things. I want to talk to my friend. I want to talk to my friend and see, you know, what are your thoughts on this thing that popped into my head the other day?
Yeah, this whole thing that we've now been talking about for over a half hour literally just popped into my head while you were saying a sentence, and we've now talked about it for over a half hour.
And it's going to get edited.
Yeah. Not really, honestly.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But that being said, I'm going to put us back into something that's a little bit of a structure, and we'll see what diatribe we get into off of that. I'm going to start us off with some news. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to start us off. I'm going to have you start us off with some news stories.
Well, my news stories are going to be, again, with my own personal forte, which is going to be mainly kind of action figure and toy related. Now, I did try to keep them to specifically anime or Weeb or Japan related, but it is all going to be just that. So we're good. I can definitely give you at least some things that stood out to me this week in the world of Japan/Weeb.
And we're not going to sit here and read off the stories.
No, we're not going to the whole thing. Either you know it or you don't. So
yeah, like maybe I'll throw them into the description and you can see where we're getting some stuff from, but I'm not going to sit here and read them where it's scrolling down.
No, you'll see the pretty pictures, and if you want to look into it, you definitely can. I mean, until we get affiliated, we'd love to be sponsored. You know, you guys can. We have faith in you to kind of find this on your own.
Google exists.
All right. So the first thing I have is there is a toy company called MDLX, and they make kind of high quality, usually metal action figures and toys. They have licenses with Marvel and Hasbro and everything. They recently, not too recently, I say recently because in the world of toys, you know, it recently could mean anything from like a year ago to a month ago, but they came out with a Transformers line. And this Transformers line, for me personally, I do feel is very anime inspired because of the aesthetics of the figures, their proportions, tiny waist, strong arms kind of things. You know, they have that like anime stance they have them in. My favorite part about these specific figures is that they are very, very heavily inspired by G1, Generation 1 Transformers designs, but just updating them with like modern aesthetics, paneling, everything else to them. They don't transform, which is something that does exist.
That's weird.
Trust me, I think for hardcore people, so in the world of Transformers, just to kind of give you a thing, there are people who are okay with that as long as the aesthetics are good, or say, well, then it's not a Transformer. Well, so I'm a little bit of both. You know, unfortunately, this is one of the things where I do kind of straddle the fence, but I haven't gotten into these too much because they are a bit more expensive. They are a bit more harder to find, and scale wise, they're not as large as some other things I have.
They look gorgeous though.
But they are gorgeous. They don't transform, but they are gorgeous.
The untransformable transform.
This week, this week or within the past week and change, they did announce Skywarp, who, for those of you in the Transformer world, Starscream is one of the jets, one of the probably most famous jets, always trying to overtake and create a mutiny against Megatron, the main baddie of the Decepticons. But Starscream is actually part of a trio. Well, more than a trio. It's part of a group known as the Seekers. It's Starscream, Skywarp, and Thundercracker. This week they released Thundercracker. But this week they released Skywarp, and Skywarp is like these beautiful kind of black and purple colors. Great design. Again, it's basically just a repaint of the Starscream one they made. But they did throw in a more mischievous face, since Skywarp is seen as like a little bit more like the prankster one, the joking around one. So it's a gorgeous design. I'm tempted to get it, but the price point for these has shot up recently. I have one MDLX figure for Transformers. It's a Bumblebee. I got it for about maybe $60 or $65. These are now, I think, about $120.
Yeah.
So it's a bit much for my price point, but they are gorgeous to look at. That's my first point.
Is this the 3-0 Transformer Bumblebee? Is that the one you're talking about, this one?
Yes, correct.
It looks really cool. So these are like articulated.
Highly articulated,
they're not figures. They're actual, well, no, they're not like statues, like
correct.
frozen statues.
They are figures. So Bumblebee, for example, comes with like alternate hands. He has an alternate head sculpt. They're very, very well articulated, so they do amazing poses. Again, gorgeous figures.
You get this for $53.
I didn't get it. I got it for
Bumblebee.
$60. Paid too much then. but again, it's a gorgeous figure. I'm not even a huge Bumblebee fan, but it's just it came out so well. I was like, I need to grab that one at the very least.
They also make this. Look at that. Was it the guy from
Ultraman?
Yeah.
So they do have Ultraman. They have the Marvel license as well. So I don't know how long ago it was, but they did release an Iron Man with a light up chest. And again, gorgeous figure. Too much for my pocket, but for those of you who are looking for something, great way to get into it. So that was my first point.
I do really like how these look. What's your philosophy on opening them up and playing with them? Or do you?
Oh man. So this has changed. And
I'm also interested on pops too, because you have a lot of pops.
I have a lot of pops. It goes back and forth. I think with action figures originally, I would always keep everything in its packaging because of resale value, because it looks great displayed, and everything else. However, as time's progressed, and it's also the same way I kind of the reverse for pops actually, but with action figures, I thought, you know what, you don't get to pose them, you don't get to take pictures of them if they're just in their packaging. And I personally don't really plan on selling my figures. I may sell them if I just get bored of it, and I'll sell it like loose, and I won't be selling it for a huge profit. I was just like, hey, maybe somebody else will enjoy it, but it's like, let me send it to a home, it'll be more appreciated. There are some things I do keep in packaging, but usually these are like very limited edition, hard to find. So just to interject, you're looking at right now Nemesis Prime. I wanted this figure so badly.
It looks so nice. The red,
gorgeous.
In the front.
I'm a very big fan of Optimus Prime repaints, which usually you'll find as Nemesis Prime, Ultra Magnus, or Shattered Glass. I love those so much, but usually when we get to those repaints, they become very expensive. But yes, back to action figures. I usually will try and open them now. However, pops, I used to always open pops when I first got into them, but they become very hard to store, to stack when they're out of their packaging.
They just fall over.
So they fall over. So now I just keep them in their packaging just because it makes it easier to kind of display and show off. But it still does take up some space. So I kind of gotten away from pops a little bit.
Early on when I was getting pops, I don't have a lot of them, but I guess we have a decent amount. We have more than the average person, I'd say, probably. But I got one for Lakota a while ago, and it was a Dishonored one, and he immediately opened it. And he lost all the stuff in the middle, so it like doesn't go back in the box or anything. So I went and got another one, and I'm like, you could play with that one. Leave this one in the box.
Same thing with action figures. There are certain pops that are very, very highly sought after, or collectibles or something else. So I want to keep those as they are should I ever want to sell it. But if not, I'll take them out, take pictures, and put them back in just because it's easier to kind of store that way. We may not share this online just yet, but I will show you. I don't know if I showed you this before. This is our pop collection about maybe 4 years ago. It's grown about twice as big since then.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, we have, again, bringing it all back to gargoyles. I was able to find the entire gargoyle set, including the stone versions of them, which is a very hard find, but it was fun to do, which I think goes into just like the toy hunting aspect that I've always enjoyed, like going to different places, finding the best price, getting where it is. One day I'll tell a story about my Superman toy hunting adventure I had many years ago. But so to come back to the news, and I know I also get derailed myself too. So we have Skywarp. The second piece of news that I have is as kind of a nice amalgamation of Western animation and anime, Japanese Weeb culture. There is another company called Soul of Chogokin. I know them mainly because they do an amazing Voltron. Very expensive. So I think last time I saw it was like between $300-$400. But an amazing kind of like die cast metal, lots of accessories, lots of detailing, beautiful sets. They've released this past week, I believe it was this past week, a basically Robo Mecha Mickey and Friends set. It's each one of Mickey's friends. So it's like Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Goofy, Daisy, and I believe Pluto come as like individual mech figures, and they combine into one super Disney mega mech.
That's nuts.
I would never get this. It's $400. Way too much for me. I love Disney. I love mechs. I'm not crazy about this, but I think it's just something great to like look at. Just like, wow, this exists in the world. So for anyone who is maybe a huge fan of Disney, it just needs it. It's part of their 100-year celebration. So it's definitely worth like looking into and seeing. I think it would make a great anime, but it's definitely a bit too much for my pockets. Again, I am very, very poor. So any sponsorships, let us know. Please, I'm happy to do anything, like literally almost anything.
The normal merchandise for Disney is really expensive.
Oh, yeah.
The 100-year annicversary stuff, which we got on our last trip, was even more expensive. And this is the next tier up.
But I mean, not to support consumerist capitalism that much. It's Disney and it's 100 years. I mean, it's not gonna be around for another 100 years.
I watched the 100 Years of Disney fireworks show twice while we were at Disney, and I cried both times.
I almost cried when we went to Disney, and at the time they had Wishes, which was their big fireworks show. I almost cried at Wishes because again, they have all the cartoons and the animation. They put effort to it and everything, and it's gorgeous. It was awesome.
They're so good at evoking emotion. It's
Yes.
I know that it's marketing and stuff for the most part, but there are people there that obviously genuinely feel that way, but they're so good at it. And it's like, even going in the second time, I'm like, listen, I cried the first time. I know what's coming. And I just couldn't stop. And it's like, oh my God, freaking Disney, you own my childhood.
Oh man. Yeah.
But this is really cool. I'm looking at the full on thing, and there's like a diagram where it shows what
it's very cool. It's very cool. And if I was a person who was much more into mechs or Disney, I would absolutely get this. I would save up my pennies and definitely get this, because between what it comes with, the accessories, the figures, everything, maybe $400 is worth it. I don't know the size, so I'm hoping it's a pretty decent size too, considering
I would imagine it would have to be.
But it also could not be. It could be the 6 inches, and then you're like, wow, this is kind of tiny for $400. So, which also still would make sense for Disney. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, this is something good to kind of just bring up for anyone who is a big Disney fan out there, or mechs, because again, we're probably going to have a mech episode. There's definitely going to be a mech episode for us at some point.
I'm surprised they don't have it like front and center how big it is, because I feel like that's a big thing with toy collectors, is knowing how big it is. And I can't find, I'm looking and I don't see.
Well, we're going to do a quick, we're going to call and get on our fact-checking team. They are telling me that it is 8.7 inches tall.
The combined?
Correct.
How big? Wow. How big are the little things?
They're probably going to be like 3 inches.
3 inches?
Yeah. I'm telling you, like, I didn't suspect for a second this was going to be huge.
It's like a McDonald's toy.
But you're talking about, I think it lights up too. So between Disney, Solo Chogokin, lighting up, 100th anniversary, the price point, it's a lot, but it makes sense.
It's also going to be super limited. I'm assuming they're not going to be. It's 39,600 yen. That includes 10% tax.
Yeah.
Just so for all you buying it in Japan.
I mean, it may be the 8 inches size of the packaging, but
it looks interesting.
I don't think it'd be that big.
Yeah.
The last thing I have is more of a announcement more than an actual toy coming out. So for those of you that know, there's a very big company called Tamashii Nations. They do SH figure arts. They do play arts. I believe they do play arts. They do a whole bunch of things. If you're in the Japanese toy collecting world, you know of them. They're one of the main bread and butter things. They recently announced their grand opening of their online Tamashii Nations store, which I thought was already opened, but I guess this is a different version of it or something. But with that, they actually announced certain re-releases that they're going to be putting out there. Some of them I'm very happy to say I already own because I got them the first time, but it's nice for people who maybe missed out the first time and don't want to pay scalper prices and can now get those figures again. The one that stood out to me the most, that maybe you and I can talk about next time, is Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta from Dragon Ball GT.
Ooh.
I was a huge fan of the Super Saiyan 4 design. I grabbed Goku as soon as I could, just waiting on Vegeta. They announced Vegeta a while ago. I grabbed Vegeta. So I'm happy to see that it's being offered again because it was one of the hard to find ones. I'm still waiting on them to do their baby Vegeta version and to finish out kind of Dragon Ball Z to finally release a Majin Kid Buu figure, which is one of the main ones I've been waiting for a very long time. I will happily grab that one. But yeah, right now waiting on that baby Vegeta and Majin Buu Kid. For right now, the Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta is out there, or it's going to be out there. They also announced some other re-releases, including the Capsule Core motorbike and I think either 2 or 3 versions of Goku. The detailing is awesome. Paint job is great. Very, very, very few QC issues. Accessories are always fun. They come with like different face plates and hand accessories and effect parts. The SH Figure Arts line has gotten a bit more expensive in the past few years, but they usually do try and offset that price with something. There's some that are definitely major hits and some that are definitely misses. I think Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta was definitely a hit.
It looks really cool. I'm looking at it now on website, and it like the detailing is really good. It looks like it's kind of like a drawn art style. Like it's got that really cool, like it jumped right off the page kind of style.
Now, I would imagine that a lot of people listening to us, because they are already in the Japanese Weeb world, probably know already, especially for SH Figure Arts. But in case you don't know, SH Figure Arts does usually run a bit smaller in terms of scale for action figures. So even if you have someone like Goku in the SH Figure Arts line, they're going to be significantly shorter than, let's say, a Spider-Man from Marvel Legends because they just scale smaller. So it's something that you're not going to really like mix and match too much with some other lines. But if you have other figures from that same line, they'll fit in perfectly.
And honestly, not that bad in terms of pricing. You're looking at $65.
No, exactly. SH Figure Art, and again, that's when it's gone up. It used to be significantly cheaper, but you know, they've done a lot. They have some great figures, and when something is a major, very big, popular seller, and it's not re-released, it goes for insane amounts. I think I got the Super Buu a while back, and that's also another gorgeous figure. Super Buu, I think, easily goes for like 100 something on eBay now, just because it's so hard to find now because there's so many like great effect parts to it, different faces. It's a pretty good height to it. It's one of those definitely much harder to find, and people will definitely pay scalper prices for it.
Yeah, it does look good. The facial expression on the Super Buu one is kind of nuts. It does that evil grin thing that he does. It definitely gets that across.
And it's so good when you place it next to other figures because he just towers over them.
I think it's really cool to hear someone talk about toys that actually has an area of expertise in toys because I just look at it and go, oh, that looks cool.
I think when you've been collecting and have as strong an interest as I have for so long, it's kind of hard to not pick up a lot of stuff and just pick up on things as you see it enough. But again, that is I will say one of my areas of expertise, but everybody has theirs. Just like I'm sure you have your expertise in other things that I know absolutely nothing about. I mean, we'll discuss sometime about my complete ignorance of I always get the name wrong. Jujutsu Kaisen, yeah. I got nothing for you there, but I'm happy to learn and I'm happy to kind of get into it. But if you have questions on toys, definitely let me know.
Absolutely. And I want to feature more of that going forward, so maybe we'll see more presence of your toy expertise.
There is always toy news.
Talking about news in general, I have some news that's for the most part still updated.
What do you got? Hit me.
I'm gonna start with the SAG-AFTRA reaching the deal with Replica Studios over the AI voiceover in video games.
I heard about this.
This was a thing that kind of shook up everybody when it came out, and everybody was talking about it. Of course, we're late to the game, but that's okay. And I think the big thing about this is the fact that it's kind of starting down what many would consider a slippery slope in terms of the use of AI when it comes to you agree to it now, and now kind of in perpetuity, we're able to use your voice. There is the whole thing about permission, like if there's new projects, you have to kind of sign off. But then there's the estate being able to sign off for deceased actors and things like that. It's like, how long are you going to use the same voice for these roles? Doesn't that kind of clog up the works for new voice actors getting in?
And again, I know there's going to be a lot of hot takes on this, definitely. And, you know, again, our takes may be the hottest because we are probably the least informed on this as a whole from what I've heard on it. Part of me wants to say, read your contract. That's going to be the one. I mean, as someone who's entered many legal contracts for different things, I think, and it's used against people sometimes, especially when you buy certain products, like, well, that's not in our warranty. And it's kind of used against us. I think it kind of brought forth a consciousness to be like, you know, you really do need to kind of read certain certain things. And if you don't read your contract and assume, and then later on realize, well, I didn't know it was going to be like this, that's kind of why you read the contract. If I do a bit line in someone's viral TikTok, and then because they just asked me to, like, yeah, sure, why not? And then all of a sudden it takes off, it makes $1 bajillion and gets this person like TV things, they're using my voice and my thing because I agreed to the TikTok, which now becomes their, public domain thing, whatever the rules of TikTok are. I can always come out like, well, you owe me money. No, I don't, because we never agreed upon that.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know it's going to take off? And now it takes off since I'm the owner of it, since I had ashes that I recorded, it's mine. So it's hard, but I definitely do understand and support the fact that as artists, they should definitely be compensated correctly. It is their likeness, it's their voice, and after they're gone, they don't have a right to say no. Someone else is in charge of it. But then again, kind of going back, you've given your right to someone else to say, in my absence, this person can make those decisions. So now it's up to that person to decide. If that person wants to milk it for all it's worth, you've kind of given them that right to do so.
I think that's a fine perspective to have when it comes to the individual themselves. I'm more concerned about how it affects everybody else in the industry. Because if you have an iconic voice that has been voicing a character and they now pass away, and they can just reach out to that person's estate who is benefiting from any future work that voice is going to generate through AI, that estate's obviously going to say yes for the most part, because they're generating money for them if they're going to continue going into the future. Then that prevents the companies from needing to recast
that role, yeah,
which is a new voice actor that could have come in and taken that role.
Well, then I think it's partly up to that person and their legal team, because I'm assuming they might have a legal team, not get a legal team in any kind of thing. You should always have some kind of lawyer, unfortunately, to say, hey, after my passing, you cannot do this anymore, period. And just, that's it. Whether you're in charge of my estate for the residuals, whatever it is, I've given you now this in my absence. But as far as making new projects, you cannot use my voice, my likeness for anything else that I'm not consciously, as a quote unquote alive person, aware of and can consent to. And it's those kind of little deals that unfortunately you would have to kind of put into your contract. Now, I think of kind of bringing it to toys for a second. I think of people like Peter Cullen, who's been the voice of Optimus Prime for $1 bajillion years since it started, and it's always wonderful to hear his voice. Peter Cullen, bless his heart, he is getting older, and you definitely hear his age catching up now in the voice. And there are people saying, hey, let him retire, instead of pushing him out to do Optimus Prime. If he wants to, absolutely let him do what he can, fine. Is he going to have the same booming effect as it had when he was younger? Absolutely not. But now that's up to the choice of people who are casting him. Otherwise, like you said, let new people take on the role. Let people take their version, their take on it. It may not be the same, but maybe it's not supposed to be the same. It's not supposed to be the same Optimus every time.
It was like James Earl Jones doing the later voice acting for Rogue One when he did Vader's voice and Mufasa in the live action Lion King. It wasn't there anymore. Like that gravitas he had before.
Exactly.
He's in his 90s now. So I can understand the reason why you would recast. I think the issue now is, like, say you are a voice actor for a famous role and the time comes that you can no longer do it anymore, but you want to make sure that the people that you're leaving behind are taken care of. So you would obviously be like, hey, if they want to use my voice in perpetuity, sign on to projects, as long as I wouldn't morally disagree with them or whatever. Sign on to projects so my estate grows and you guys can make money off of it. And that's understandable from that person's perspective. But now that person who would have been cast in that spot is now not able to get into
because
that
they
spot.
have this recording going forward. Well,
isn't that eventually going to crowd out the market? Like, how
absolutely,
many,
because now you're not only just competing against other voice actors, you have people who are gone. They just have the record. I mean,
and that's rough because there's not really anything you can do about that. If the character can be voiced forever by this guy, then
let me ask you then, as a person who's not a voice actor, if you could create something and people could use your voice and take care of your kids and your kids' kids and everything else through all the generations of you that are out there, keep King's Entertainment on for 1 million years, would you agree to that?
Absolutely. But that's from a personal perspective.
No,
the SAG-AFTRA needs to look after all of their members. So they need to look after the veterans that have been here forever, and they need to look at the newcomers that just joined and the people that are going to be looking at into the future. That's why a lot of people were annoyed with SAG, because they made this decision without consulting a lot of the people that are in the industry. And it's something that damages not the people at the top, but the people at the bottom. And they're the ones who need the representation more than the people at the top. Tom Cruise doesn't need your representation, but the person who just got out of drama school and is just joining it with their first role, that's the person that who's going to need something.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, that's a fair point.
I don't know what it starts with video games, but who knows that it stays with video games? Who knows that it doesn't move
there's
on
no
to
way
animation?
I mean, that's the whole point of like AI art and ChatGPT, and it's one of those things that I think is so much more layered than I think people give it credit for, because a lot of people are using those things for their personal benefit until it does something that affects them, and they're like, well, wait a second, this is not okay. I kind of give the recommendation to a friend of mine of watching a YouTube video of some VTubers who are kind of like laughing, having a good time at like the presidential voice AI that they were doing. Or it was like, it's Obama, Biden, and Trump talking about video games. Like, oh, it's so funny that they're reacting to it. It's so funny. This is great. This is awesome. Fine. Until someone did a voice AI of that VTuber. Now, like, it's, affecting my own personality and it's my money and which, again, they're not wrong, but you kind of have to ask yourself, how did it get there? It got there by people like that person promoting it and saying, this is great. This is awesome. I don't think anyone asked Biden or Trump or Obama, can we use your voice to talk about Halo? No, they just did it. So now someone else is doing that same thing to someone else, but not because it's affecting them personally. Now, like, well, no, this is not okay. So I
think the only way to really like regulate this kind of stuff is to step outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of not be self-motivated with it, because I mean, most people will go with what benefits them, because this is a world that doesn't really reward people who look out for others and sacrifice themselves. It's not really a thing that, especially in the grind.
Yeah, I think going with that kind of mentality, I think that's a huge thing. Is you have to step outside yourself and accept that you're going to be sacrificing something for the betterment of those that come after you, just like hopefully the ones that came before you sacrifice for you as well. If you do want to be a more individualist kind of idea, say, well, I'm going to just take care of me and mine, you can definitely vote for things that way, but you're going to be affecting people as a whole, and ultimately that industry is just going to eat itself. What are we going to do when we have no voice actors doing anything because we have endless recordings of Steve Blum and Chris Sabat doing everything? What do we need more people for? Steve Blum was against
this too.
I saw he was very vocal against. He was one of the people who said, they said that we talked and we agreed. Like, who agreed? I didn't agree.
If you didn't talk to Steve Blum about it, like who's one of the Mount Rushmores of voice actors, who did you talk to?
Oh man,
the thing that we need to consider, and Philip DeFranco says this all the time when he does AI stories, where he goes, this is the worst it will ever be. It's only going to get better from here. And this stuff needs to get handled soon, or we're going to reach a point where it could collapse the industry. If we don't start making rulings on certain things about like copyright, there has been some court cases about copyright on things like comic books that use AI art and books that use AI art, and books that use AI text and things like that. There needs to be more concrete understanding on how this stuff is from a legal perspective, because we're running into a scenario where everybody has access to it. There's free ChatGPT. I could go use ChatGPT now and it's free, and I could do whatever I want with it. I could write a book with ChatGPT right now. What does that do to the industry if all of this AI stuff starts flooding into the industry, and then all of a sudden you can't get copyrights on it, you can't make money on it, but people have already made money on it? Are they going to get sued? Are they like, what is this stuff needs to be handled before it becomes the majority of the industry?
It's going to be, it has to be attacked by both a legal standpoint, obviously for like the financial benefit and protecting rights of certain people, but also it's going to be attacked by on artistic standpoint as well, because then, there's already the debates of like, is AI art? And I've seen some AI art, obviously, because I exist in the world, and some of it's really freaking good. Like, it's like, holy crap, this is amazing. And it's, people say, well, it's not real art because someone did make it. Well, is it as personal or as special or as, have that special human touch to it? No, of course not. But is it good art? Objectively, yes, it's good art. Whether we should be supporting it or not, so that was a completely different question, because then we should support artists and what they create, what comes out of their brains. But now we also get into that another gray area where if artists also find that it's easier just to kind of output, AI art and claim it as their own, are we going to fall for that too? What happens with that? There are people there was somebody who made some big thing that went to a museum. I wish I knew more about this. And then they admit, no, this is AI art. And everyone's saying that has a gorgeous piece, and it is what it is. Just to kind of show that there's very little distinction, that we have to kind of focus on the human element to kind of support actual artists and things. And it's hard to say, because I think a lot of people nowadays do benefit from AI in any medium as much as possible, but there is still something that says about supporting artists, supporting people who put their heart and soul into things. And it's kind of hard to tell what is the soul now. We talk about certain pieces of art, but there are artist friends that I know I'm going to be reaching out to for certain things, because I want their creation myself, as opposed to going to an AI art thing for me personally.
Yeah, there's definitely multiple perspectives on it, and I don't think this is going to be something that goes away anytime soon. I think that until people can start looking at it from a perspective of, these are the things that benefit me, and that's that's all I really care about, we're not going to start getting any conclusions. But it's something that we're going to have to face.
Yeah.
The fact that we have lawyers that are making their briefs using AI and presenting briefs that have incorrect data in them, if you're using it on the law perspective, then everybody's using it.
Yeah,
and
it's possible.
It's nearly impossible nowadays. Like they have all these agreements and stuff. I recently started up classes, and it talks about how you're not allowed to pass off anything made from AI as your own, and there's all this disclaimers, like it's academic.
That's crazy. That's being included now. Like but that's what it is. There are these new things that are introduced that we have to kind of work around. We have to have the certain things. I mean, it feels like it's obvious, but yeah, you have to put those disclaimers in. Like you cannot pass off ChatGPT work as your own. Period.
You need to use AI to analyze the AI to see if it's AI. That's the whole thing. They're using AI algorithms to be able to tell if you submitted a paper and it was written on ChatGPT.
That's crazy.
But I don't know. It's an interesting world we're moving into, and I'm interested to see where it's going, but I'm also worried to see where it's going.
I mean, again, I don't think this is more of a idea of how old we are, but I think of just anyone who's thinking about this. It's scary. It is scary at its core, because if you think about it, there are those AI chatbots that you can like talk to, and some of them are so indistinguishable from people. It's scary. People are like forming these like actual bonds with AI chatbots, and the thing is like, well, we know it's an AI, but it's responding so sincerely and so like in response to my questions. Then I was like, that line is getting so blurred now. We're just days away from Judgment Day. We're gonna see T1000s everywhere, T800s everywhere. Make friends with a robot. Be nice to your microwave, because yeah, it's all coming to a head.
There was all the controversy that happened with Replica AI, that app where it was like a social app and all this stuff that they promised, and then it couldn't do it. But there was all these parasocial relationship things, and then they like canceled it, and everybody like lost their relationships with the things that they had built up for the amount of time. And I think these things, as cool as they are, I don't know how healthy it is, because we're already moving towards a lot of social isolation with cell phones and internet communications. We have never been in a point in history where we're so well connected and so distant at the same time.
Yeah.
And just being able to have a relationship with an AI that can mimic a human being,
And there's no need.
yeah, it's just moving us further and further away.
Which, and again, that's going to be something that's so layered, multifaceted, that we probably would need to bring in somebody who's a bit more well versed in this stuff. But I mean, I'm sure the same could be said about a lot of things. I'm sure people said the same things about cell phones when cell phones were created. I'm sure like, well, now you can't call somebody because you just have it on your phone. And when phones were created themselves, well, you can't visit them because you can just talk to them there. Computers, like people all been at these chat rooms. You're not actually going to a place to meet people. You're just talking to them in the chat room. So I feel like that's also part of technology moving forward. But
back in my day,
exactly. But I think it's our responsibility to ensure that humanity moves forward with technology. But unfortunately, it's just surpasses so much over so many years. It's almost impossible to even just catch up. I mean, there are people that I know better. I know more of their day just from their Instagram and YouTube posts than I know of my own family. Like if you were to ask me what my family did the other day, I would not be able to tell you. But I can tell you what my favorite vlogger did. Well, they went to this trip, they went to this restaurant, they went to this place, they spent this much, had this food, because it's in their video and it's on their Instagram. And what is it more important, to know what they did or know what my family did? I would say it's my family, so I need to improve upon that. But it's that idea
of get yourself out of the grind, man.
Yeah,
Be in the moment.
I know. And again, we could maybe say this for a very special Valentine's Day episode. But I think people also said the same thing about like sex toys. They say, people have so many sex toys, they're gonna stop having sex. People have not stopped having sex. They're still having sex, whatever. I think there's just sex enhancers, I think they're sometimes called. But
look at the stuff they're making in Japan, though. They're cutting edge sex robots.
I think they are a very nice enhancer, but I do think there's something about the human aspect that is going to be very hard to replicate ever. Even if you get the best AI, it's just, there's something about it, that nervousness. I mean, going as simple as like getting your first kiss from someone, there's that anxiety, there's that nervousness, that kind of like bliss of like, it's happened when you finally kiss them. If you have an AI bot that is programmed to give you that first kiss, there's no anxiety with it, and which maybe, but that's part of it. There's no nervousness, that excitement, because it's going to happen. They're programmed to do it. They're not going to like say no, which then goes into its own thing. I actually saw this in a documentary once, which is at what point do robots and AI become so sentient that we have to also ensure their rights?
That wasn't a documentary. That was just Ex Machina.
And it wasn't Ex Machina. I did see Ex Machina for it, but actually it would tie into the Animatrix about how robots then became so sentient that they say, we deserve rights. We feel certain things. We're aware of certain things. We deserve that. And we're approaching that point so quickly, we better get ready for it, because at some point your toaster is going to want its rights.
There was a court case, and I, off the top of my head, because it's not something I prepared, I don't remember exactly the details, but a handful of years ago, I want to say it was pre-COVID, they had a court case in the UK where they were ruling on artificial intelligence and sentience. I don't know how far it got, but I remember reading articles about it, and it was a while ago, but well before this AI explosion. And who'd have thought that the UK courts were going to be the ones that were going to start the ball rolling? But that is a thing. We need to figure that out when we're diving headlong into this kind of world where AI is a part of every bit of our life.
I mean, I think the UK are probably well versed in what happens when you let some people get too full of themselves to ahead. They lost the whole colony because of it. And look at that. So, like, you know, we're not gonna let that happen again. We're gonna stay in control this time. We're gonna nip this at the bud and take care of it.
We don't want to lose our robot nation.
Oh God, another America all over again. God.
As much as I want to continue this news conversation going forward, we're running a little bit long. So I have a couple of other stories, and I think I'm going to save them for the next episode.
Oh, anticipation.
Yes, anticipation. And one of them I especially want to get your opinion on. But I also want to get the opinions on everybody who's listening. So please comment and let us know what you think about the format of the show, what you want to see us talk about in the future, and any suggestions that you make, because honestly, we will take your suggestions, discuss them, and if it's something we think we can put some kind of knowledge forth on, we'll talk about it.
Again, there is no structure here, guys. You can let us know whatever you want to talk about, and if it's something that we feel that we can discuss, we absolutely will. I mean, you can even leave down below your thoughts on AI. Have you used AI? What are your experiences with it? Have you used it in different media? You know, what is your hot take on this? Because all hot takes are welcome, as long as they're appropriate and, again, not hurting yourself or anyone else. We are good.
Absolutely. And don't forget to like the video if you like it. Subscribe so you don't miss any of this going forward, and you don't miss any of this should you watch content that's airing. Every day we've put out a video since the winter 2024 anime season started, so there's plenty for you to watch.
How do you do it, man? You know, there are little kids who think that the way you say goodbye is to tell people like, comment, subscribe, because they hear that in the videos.
That is how you say goodbye. That's how I say goodbye.
Like, comment, subscribe, guys. Share the video, ring the bell, the whole nine.
Yeah, when you guys leave after we played a session of D&D and stuff, don't I always say to you, like, comment, and subscribe?
Yeah, you do. And I go home and I realize, wait, there's nothing to subscribe to. And fall for it every time.
Ring the doorbell.
Yeah.
But you should ring that bell so you know
Absolutely.
what's happening going forward, and you get notified, and we will catch you in the next one.
See you guys. Take care.